Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Happy May, happy Friday. Hope you have wonderful plans for this weekend. Before we dive on into this, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Share this video with somebody, I don't know. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive on into this. So Bitcoin price projections over the next 10 years. If the Bitcoin price continues to move like this for the next decade, how would you feel? Answer honestly, comma, gauging something deeper. I'll be honest with you. Okay, I mean, it says to answer honestly. I don't know. I wouldn't feel amazing. I really like the idea of buying in the depths of despair in the bear market and seeing a pretty much guaranteed 5 to 10x, something like that. And so if every year that it climbed, great, but that means that what's the name of the game? The name of the game is just stacking sats, making sure that you have more Bitcoin in your possession. One thing that really, really bothers me about this chart is that they skipped 2029, and I don't think they realized it. And what else? So 1.6 million, 10 years from now is pretty bearish. IMO, May 2035. I disagree with that. I think that would be a fantastic price for Bitcoin, but just an exercise here. Let's move on. Okay, I don't actually have a ton for Bitcoin right now, and that's fine. I mean, Bitcoin's been looking good the last few days, last couple of weeks. Let's keep this thing going. Mr. Crypto, one of the most bullish accounts that I have ever seen, and occasionally, it's not like I agree with him entirely, but occasionally he does give me something, give some information that I find to be very interesting. And so stablecoin minting is going parabolic. Here we are, stablecoin minting. Bitcoin price will follow. So here's 2024. You see this big price pull, this big move up in USDT plus USDC circulating supply. And we saw a pullback, and then what happened? A big, eventually a move up, and then a chop, a grind, and then a breakout of that chop, and Bitcoin's price eventually went much higher. Here we are in 2025, and same deal, major printing of stable coins, but a pullback down to $74,000 Bitcoin, and then a pump up to the levels where we are now. Hopefully a breakout from there, and then price go much higher. It is a compelling argument to make. Again, I like looking at charts. I like looking at information that kind of conflicts with my base case, just to test my theories and to also have me change my mind. If we're going to follow this same trend that we followed in 2024, I wouldn't be shocked, and that would be amazing. That would put us at Bitcoin at, what would that be, 150? If I'm reading this right, my eyes are failing me right now. But no, that's 130 or so in August. I would take that. I'd be happy to see those prices for sure. Moving on, CoinFissions. I don't know if you follow this account. It's a sad, mostly sad account. Okay, and just don't be this guy. Okay, take profits, but ran up 100K to 3 million from AI coins last year, November, December. Diamond handed it all the way down to 250K now. People think it's still a 2.5x, but the gut-wrenching feeling knowing that I lost 2.75 million in 2 months is torture. A couple things about this. Number one, you did not lose $2.75 million. I know it feels that way, but you should not look at it like this. What you should do is just take into consideration that the amount that you take out is your final amount. Everything else is just fictitious. It's just, and the reason why I say that is it's impossible to nail this perfectly. At one point you were at 3 million. The idea that you would have walked away with 3 million, it's ludicrous because there's very little inside of you that would expect things to continue to go down for 3 million to be the peak at that time. But also, cashing out is not a process of you just sell everything at once. It never was meant to be that way. And so, for example, I had a cryptocurrency that did a 100x in early 2024. And my $1,000 investment really did turn into $100,000. But what happened? At the end of the day, I walked away with probably about $50,000. I needed to buy a 12-passenger van, needed to pay tuition at my kid's school. And so is that a win or a loss? I would consider that a huge win because I sold near and around the peak. I didn't sell the exact peak. That's just not realistic. So, What can this person do now? Who knows? Maybe, I'm assuming they bought a bunch of AI agents, and AI agents seem to be doing very well right now. So maybe there's a chance here for this person to get their account back. And hopefully, if you're in a position like this, you take profits. Okay, don't be like this guy. I love this first comment here. It was never 3 million given the liquidity available, so don't let it keep you up at night. 100% agree with that. Moving on, that's it. That's all I have for Bitcoin, but let's focus on some MicroStrategy here. So interesting tweet here. Strategy is up 2,000% since they started buying Bitcoin. MetaPlanet, let's move on, is up 1,700% since they started buying Bitcoin. How about the Steez? No, I'm not. 21 is entering the fray, with a bigger backing than either of these companies, as well as the advantage of hide and sight. Pretty easy buy and hold play here. So Cantor Equity Partners, that's Cantor Fitzgerald with a lot of other players into this. They want to buy a lot of Bitcoin. All right, and so just a couple days ago, this price was $37.29. I bought one share just to have it in my Robinhood and to remind myself that I should be looking into this more. And this thing, as of the moment that I'm making this video, is $48.32, literally within a couple days. And it got up to, I think, $56. I mean, look at this stock over the last year. It launched in August of 2024. It was just hanging around $10, not really doing anything. And then boom, they announced that they're going to be acquiring Bitcoin, and it's off to the races. I wouldn't be surprised if today's prices are still considered pretty low. It depends for sure on where Bitcoin goes, but if you are a mega bull on Bitcoin, then this might be a fantastic buying opportunity. I'm going to load up a little bit on it, not a ton, just to buy some. I've thought about buying some options, but the premiums are pretty wild, so I think I'll pass on that. So CEP, Cantor Equity Partners, buying lots and lots of Bitcoin. Speaking of MicroStrategy, though, did you know? I did not know. This is new information to me, and oh my goodness, this is insane. Michael Saylor has approval to mint 10 billion with a B, new MicroStrategy shares. Next earning call, he is likely to unveil the largest capital raise in financial market history, all to buy more Bitcoin. And you're bearish. No, very few of you are bearish. A lot of you would call me a bear. That was a joke. But 10 billion shares of MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy stock is like $400 right now. 400 times 10 billion is 4 trillion. Did I get that right? $4 trillion at today's prices that they might raise to buy Bitcoin. That is insane. $4 trillion. Now, they wouldn't do that all at once, but Michael Saylor has proven himself to be pretty wild when it comes to his acquisition of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy has 2.5% of the supply. What is that? A little over 500,000 Bitcoin, excuse me. That would be pretty wild. Okay, moving on. Treasury buybacks. Okay, so we have interest rates, we have quantitative easing, we have things like that. Those things are still a little far off, but what do we like to do? We like to have soft quantitative easing. And here we have a tweet from Fijao, second time I've had him featured in one of my videos, and looks like the Treasury buybacks are going to be ramped up. Very interesting. So let's read this. Given the success of the buyback program since its launch last year, Treasury believes it is an appropriate time to consider ways to improve its efficacy. Accordingly, Treasury will evaluate a broad range of possible enhancements, such as changes to maximum purchase amounts, buyback operation scheduling and frequency, security eligibility, maturity bucket composition, execution process, and counterparty eligibility. In considering these options, Treasury will be guided by the objective of financing the government at the lowest cost over time. Treasury is committed to engaging with a wide range of market participants, including the primary dealers and Treasury Borrowing Advisory Committee, to assess these potential enhancements to the buyback program. All right. So Treasury buybacks, it's not just the Federal Reserve who can do things to prop up the American economy. And so what would that look like? That would be the buying of a lot of treasuries, maybe driving interest rates down, printing lots of money to buy back. Kind of a interesting thing that this is happening at a time when reverse repo ability, their balances, the balance of reverse repos is pretty low, and it's getting close to zero. So maybe this is the next thing, but are we there yet? I would say we're not quite there yet, but we're getting close to the ideal conditions where your altcoins that are guaranteed to 100x would thrive. But some bad news. Okay, we have oil, we have copper. So oil prices extend decline toward $58 a barrel as markets price in an increased probability of a recession. We had the GDP report come out, negative 0.3%. Expectations were 0.3%, which is kind of weird to me considering the Atlanta Fed projected negative 2.4%, and we came out negative 0.3%. That's actually I'm pretty bullish. I need to reevaluate some things. I was expecting a much lower CPI report based off of what the Atlanta Fed was projecting. And so there was definitely a negative stock market reaction when all that stuff came out, and in crypto too, but then we bounced right back, And so we'll see. Now the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are getting dangerously close to the 200-day moving average. I do expect a rejection there. We'll see. If we're going to have a V-shaped recovery, it's going to take a little bit of time to break through that level. If we do have a V-shaped recovery, that's going to be very bullish for stocks and crypto. But this is a little bit of a concern. Oil prices are continuing to decline pretty aggressively, and that is a sign usually of a recession. I remember the recession in 2008. I remember the day that I got married in 2008, August 29th, 2008, gasoline was $4 a gallon. By the end of that year, gasoline was under $2 because oil prices had gone down so much. And so is this a sign of things to come? We'll see. There was another thing, another oil comment here. Oil spills back below $60 just as copper is rolling over. Two fear indicators are dropping like stones. This is a new thing on this channel that I'm paying attention to in particular, is the ratio of copper to different assets. For example, like the gold copper ratio. Oil and copper are two things that when we see these go down, the prices of these particular commodities, that's not a good sign. We see a comment here, time to cut rates, LOL. We'll see the Federal Reserve is most likely not going to be cutting rates sometime soon. Let me get to Guilherme Tavares. I just love his stuff. So industrial sector / copper gold ratio, percentage distance from exponential growth. So here we go from Guilherme. This is yet another concerning indication of how the current market environment appears significantly decoupled from underlying fundamentals. While it's fair to argue that over the long term, the ratio of industrials to copper gold price has been in an upward trend driven by factors such as productivity gains and earnings growth for the companies, I'm not denying it. My point is that there are limits. This is why using the percentage distance from the exponential growth trend provides a more accurate gauge of how far current conditions have deviated from the long-term trajectory. At present, the deviation looks quite stretched, suggesting a potential pullback in industrials, particularly relative to the copper-gold ratio. The last time this was this high, late 99, before the dot-com bubble burst. All right, moving on. Let's see what we got here. Worldwide U.S. M2 liquidity. People love to talk about how liquidity is expanding at such a rapid rate. Well, look at the chart. What do you see? What I see is, yes, global M2 is increasing, but it's not increasing at the rate that it increased after the COVID crash. And then, in the great debasement of 2020 to 2021, is it even increasing at a rate that it did from 2016 to 2020? It's increasing, sure. But the excitement, the level of excitement of the increase of global M2 is not proportional to the level of expectation that I think a lot of people have for prices of Bitcoin, at least. Bitcoin will go up as M2 goes up. The trend for sure is up, but let's also be mindful that we're pretty much back to where we were in 2022 when it comes to M2. So why is Bitcoin all that much higher than where it was in 2022? Just some things to think through. Bullish for sure. We should be bullish. Yes. Donald Trump. This is the Trump stock market, January 29th, 2024. This is Biden's stock market, not Trump's, April 30th, 2025. Fun stuff here. Anyway, moving on. So we have Bitcoin at 96 and change. Got up as high as $97,000. Looks like a breakout. Let me actually pull up the USDT chart so you can see what I'm talking about here. I circled this time period and in comparison to this time period from November, where we chopped a little bit in the 70s before breaking out. So I'm wondering if this is something similar. Big flagpole here, chopping a little bit in the lower 90s, breaking out of that. Will we continue to break out? We will see. But I am hopeful for the next couple weeks at least, and then we'll see about after that. The Dow Jones and S&P 500 have me a little bit worried, in NASDAQ, that we're getting close. We're getting there, man, the 200-day moving average. If we can break through the 200-day moving average in the S&P 500, I'm going to be very, very bullish. But it's going to take a lot of work. So I'm going to get pretty conservative if and when we get to the 200-day moving average in the S&P and the NASDAQ. Anyway, let's see what we've got here. So Gork is the number one trending cryptocurrency on DexScan. We have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Virtual, and Sui, two of the biggest winners. So AI agents look pretty good. And actually, another one that I would say looks pretty good, gaming cryptos have had a very good 24 hours. And will that continue? Looking at like the Superverse chart, for example, there's a lot of room to go higher. And I would also say that with AI agents like Virtual. So we will see. Sui, still scorching hot. Sui ecosystem looks good. My non-financial advice to any of you still listening to this video is ride the winners. All right, this is different than chasing green candles. I would not buy the underperforming cryptos right now, expecting them to catch up. That's all. Aside from the ISOs and maybe a handful of exceptions. Other than that, I think you should ride the winners, not financial advice, for whatever this pump gives us. But anyway, that is all I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your week, and I will most certainly be seeing you in another video. Peace.